So now what we're going to do is try to create realistic shadowing with this figure in this scene. So to start off, find the layer where the figure is, right here. Make sure it's locked, copy it, unlock the copy, and then lock the transparency, because what we're going to do is we're going to fill this figure with the shading that we see in the image. So I'll move the layers palette over a little bit so we can see clearly. So somewhere over in here, we can see shadows falling on the snow. So we're going to use the color that's already in the image to make the shadow for this person. The way to do it is go over to your tool set over here and get the eyedropper and pick a shadow color. Maybe this one is good. Flick the arrow over here and try another one. So we'll give ourselves two choices. So here we are back on the layer with the transparency locked. We go Edit, Fill, and it has to be done on normal. The other thing is the reading has to be 100%. Make sure Preserve Transparency is clicked, and there we go. Now, if that one doesn't seem like it's the right shading that you'd like, flick to the other one and do the same process. Edit, Fill, foreground color, normal 100%, and that one might be better. So now what we're going to do is lock this layer, just so we'll have a backup copy. Copy it again, turn off the lock layer, turn off the lock transparency. Now we need to use the navigator, Window, Navigator, in case yours isn't open, and get further out so we can manipulate the shadow without clicking off the file. So we go Edit, Transform, and go Flip Vertical. So now we have the shadow moved vertically. Get your Move tool and move it down. Now what we have to do is look at the light source in the image. It's here, which means that this person's shadow would be falling that way. So we've got to bring the shadow to where it touches her. It's a good idea at this point to drag the shadow in the layers palette underneath the person whose shadow is being produced. So as we said, the sun's here, the light would be falling in that direction. So we have to get the shadow so that it's true to the image. So I'm going to come in a little bit closer and go Edit, Transform, and do a Distort. And so now I'm going to hide the dock to get that out of the way. Get a little closer in. And now we're going to distort that shadow so that it's true to the place where she's standing. This might take a couple of times to get it right. You have to play with it a little bit. Remember, shadows touch what they're shadowing. So you have to get the feet touching right up here in this area. So now you have to make some decisions. If this seems like a good start, and it does, what we'll do is we'll hit the Enter key. And the next thing we'll do is lock this layer, copy it again so we have a backup copy, unlock the copy, and go up to the opacity slider and bring this down just a little bit more, and see if you like what's happening. The next thing you can try are the blending modes here. Sometimes overlay works for shadows. So you can see that the color changed when I changed this setting to overlay. You could bring up the opacity and see if that's good. I'm not sure that's so good, so I'll go on and try other things. For example, I might try multiply and then bring the opacity slider down and see how that one works. So as you can see now, we're starting to get different varieties of shadow color working. Another thing that we might need to do, if we look at these shadows, they're a little blurred. So we could try this. Go over and do Filter, Blur, and do a Gaussian blur. And just see if a slight blur like that to the shadow makes it more believable. It seems like it's a pretty good start. I'd lock the layer, go File, Save, and then once it's saved, I'd go back and I'd go to the original layer and try some other shadow colors and see which one looks better to you. So that's basics of shadow making.